There is a particular kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with the body. Angelina Marsh knew it well by the 11th night. She was 37 years old, a quiet woman living a quiet life in a small apartment with too many empty coffee cups and a journal filled to its margins. Nothing in her days suggested what was happening to her nights. She had stopped sleeping, not because of insomnia, not because of work or worry. She had stopped sleeping because every time she closed her eyes, the dream was already there, waiting. It was always the same. A countryside house, large, old, set against a black sky, swallowed by fire. A family running out of it toward her. A man, a woman, 2 children, faces blackened with soot, mouths wide open in screams she could hear long after she woke. And Angelina herself, standing in the middle of a dirt path, barefoot in a white dress, unable to move, her feet holding to the ground as though the earth itself had decided she wasn't going anywhere. Behind the burning house, something waited in the dark. Not a figure exactly, more like a weight in the air, a presence that had been there longer than the fire, longer than the house, longer perhaps than any of them. In her journal, Angelina simply called it the Dark Lord because she had no better word for something that felt less like a person and more like a verdict. And then, through the smoke and the screaming, the woman from the family would step forward. Her face, by the end of it, was always calm, the terrible calm of someone who has passed through grief so complete it has come out the other side as stone. She would look at Angelina with eyes that held centuries, and she would say the same words in the same voice every single time.
Now it is your turn. You will get what you deserve.
And then Angelina would wake up. 11 nights, 11 times she slammed back into her body at those exact words, heart hammering, the smell of smoke still in her nose, though there was no smoke. She began to feel the dream bleeding into her waking hours, catching a face in the window of a passing train, hearing a faint crackling that turned out to be nothing. She stopped eating properly. She stopped answering her phone. She was beginning to lose the border between what was happening in her sleep and what was happening in the world. By the 12th day, she knew she needed help. She found Dr. Eleanor Cole through a colleague who mentioned, almost in passing, a psychiatrist who was good with dreams, good with the kind that don't let go. Dr. Cole listened over 2 sessions, mapping the dream like a landscape, noting what changed and what stayed fixed, asking careful questions about the family's faces, the symbol carved into the dark air, the words the woman said at the end. She was, by all accounts, thorough and measured, and then she gave Angelina an instruction that Angelina would later describe as the most frightening and most important thing anyone had ever asked of her. She told her to follow the dream, not to run from it, to walk toward it, to stand her ground inside it and watch and listen, the way a person holds still in the dark until their eyes adjust and the room reveals itself. The dream, Dr. Cole told her, was a door. Angelina had been pressing herself against it from the wrong side.
She said to me, "The dream is a door. You've been standing on the wrong side of it." I went home that night and lay in bed with the lights on for a long time. And I thought, what is the worst thing that happens if I look? And I thought, I already know the worst thing. I've been living with it for 11 nights, so I turned off the light and I closed my eyes. On purpose this time, and I let it come.
The dream came as it always did. The house burning, the family running, the presence in the dark. But on this 12th night, Angelina did not back away. She stood in the dirt path, and she breathed, and she watched. And because she was no longer running, she began to see what she had always been too afraid to notice. The woman was holding something, a metal rod, iron, long, with one end heated to an orange glow, and pressed into that glowing tip, a symbol, a circle, and inside it 3 interlocking triangles, surrounded by what appeared to be script from a language Angelina did not recognize. The woman took Angelina's right hand, gently, almost sorrowfully, and pressed the brand into her arm. She screamed herself awake. She would spend the first 10 minutes convinced it was nothing, a bruise, a trick of the light, the redness that comes from clutching sheets in the night. But the mark was there. Faint, reddish, unmistakably geometric, the same 3 interlocking triangles, the same circling script, exactly where the brand had been pressed in the dream. She photographed it. Then she sat on her kitchen floor, and she looked at it for a long time, because something had crossed over from wherever dreams live into the world she was standing in, and she now understood that this was no longer simply a matter of bad sleep. She began to search online databases, occult encyclopedias, academic papers on secret societies and esoteric symbolism, physical libraries, historians contacted by email, most of whom replied politely and unhelpfully, forums populated by people who knew a great deal about symbols that turned out not to be hers. Days became weeks. She ate badly. She slept in fragments, waking each time to the same dream. Patient, unchanging, the woman with the brand always waiting at the end of it. The mark on her palm faded slightly, but did not disappear. She sketched the symbol obsessively, dozens of times, filling the backs of envelopes and napkins, trying to hold its exact geometry in her hands. And then, on an obscure, archived academic website that looked as though it had not been updated since the early days of the internet, she found it, the symbol. Her symbol printed clearly beneath a heading that read, "The Order of the Ashen Covenant, a regional secret society, dissolved 19th century." She read the article 3 times. The order had operated in secret for several decades, conducting rituals and maintaining strict internal codes, its members bound by oaths they sealed with that emblem. Its last known gathering site was listed at the bottom of the article, with a location reference that made Angelina's hands go still on the keyboard. It was near her grandmother's old house, in the countryside where she had spent summers as a child. She had driven past that land 100 times without knowing what it was. She drove out the following morning. The land was as she remembered it, fields rolling away under a grey sky, the smell of old earth and cold air. She found the site without difficulty. What had been a building was now only a foundation, stone ribs breaking through the grass, the skeleton of something long since hollowed out. But carved into the threshold stone, nearly swallowed by lichen and time, was the seal. She crouched and pressed her marked palm against it, the shapes aligned precisely. She stood up slowly and looked up the hill toward her grandmother's house, visible on the slope above. Her grandmother had been able to see this place from her kitchen window every morning, every evening for 50 years. The house had been in the Marsh family for 3 generations. After her grandparents died, it had simply remained, nobody willing to sell it, nobody willing to return. Angelina had always told herself she kept the key for sentimental reasons. She went to the attic. The attic held the usual accumulation of a long life: trunks, furniture under dust sheets, the compressed silence of things no one had touched in decades. At the back, behind a large steamer trunk, she found a wooden box. Inside it were letters, old photographs, folded documents, and one envelope sealed with wax. The symbol was pressed into the wax. She opened it with shaking hands and read, in her grandfather's handwriting, a letter that had never been sent, a confession written to no one, or to everyone, or to whoever was eventually brave enough to find it. He wrote that he and Angelina's grandmother had been members of the Order. They were young, both in their 20s, and the Order had drawn them in the way such things draw the young, with the promise of belonging, of meaning, of being part of something larger than themselves. In time, they understood what the Order truly was and what it required of its members, things he could not bring himself to name directly, even in a letter no one was supposed to read. One night, they resolved to be free of it. They went to the Order's meeting house with the intention of burning its records, destroying the evidence of everything the group had done, erasing the trail that led back to them. The fire was supposed to be simple. The building was supposed to be empty. They did not know a family had returned to the site that night. A family who had their own entanglement with the Order, their own reasons for being there. Angelina's grandparents did not see the light in the windows until the fire had already taken the walls. By the time they understood what was happening, there was nothing that could be done. The man, the woman, the 2 children, all of them died. Angelina's grandparents never spoke of it again, not to each other, not to anyone. They sealed the letter, placed it in the box, and buried the box in the attic of a house they could not bring themselves to sell or return to. They spent the rest of their lives with that silence between them, and then they died and left it to the next generation and the next until it found its way, through fire and dream and a mark pressed into a sleeping woman's arm, to the one person in the bloodline who was finally willing to open the box.
When Angelina told me what she had found, I sat with it for a long time. I'm a scientist. I work with an evidence and observable fact. I cannot tell you with clinical certainty that the dead were sending her messages. I cannot account within any existing medical framework for how a symbol she had only ever seen inside a dream appeared as a physical mark on her skin. What I can tell you is this: the human psyche carries inherited trauma in ways we are only beginning to understand. Angelina had grown up in a house with 2 people who had spent 50 years not speaking of something monstrous. That silence lives in a home. Children absorb it without knowing what they're absorbing. Whether that fully explains everything that happened to her. I have chosen to hold certain things in uncertainty rather than force them into a category that doesn't fit. Some things I have simply stopped needing an explanation for.
She went back to the site the morning after reading the letter. She stood on the foundation stones for a long time. The sun was barely up. The fields were quiet. And then she spoke, not to the air exactly, but to whoever had been waiting all this time for someone from her family to finally come and say what needed to be said. She said that her grandparents had done this, not her, but that she was the one who knew now, and she did not intend to carry it the way they had, sealed and silent, buried in the dark at the back of a house no one could bear to enter. She said she was sorry. She said it for her grandparents because they never could, and then she stood quietly for a while in the early light before walking back to her car. In the weeks that followed, she submitted her grandfather's letter and the other documents from the box to local historical authorities. A formal record was established. The family who died in the fire of the Order's meeting house was given, at last, a name in the official account of what had happened that night. A plaque was placed at the site. The house on the hill was eventually sold. Angelina made sure of that. She kept nothing from it but the box and the letter and the knowledge of what had been buried there. That night she lay down in her apartment and closed her eyes, and she dreamed once more, the countryside at night, but no fire this time. Just the fields and the stars, and the woman standing at the far edge of the dark. No rod, no screaming family, No presence pressing in from the shadows, just the woman and Angelina standing in the quiet, looking at each other across the distance between them. The woman gave the smallest nod. Then she turned and walked away, and as she walked, she faded, not into darkness, but into the pale light that comes just before sunrise, and then she was simply gone. Angelina woke to sunlight, real sunlight, coming through the curtains in a way that meant she had slept all the way to morning. The mark on her arm was still there. It has not faded. She does not believe it will, but she does not cover it, and she does not explain it to people who ask. She simply says it is a reminder of something true that needed finding.
My grandparents buried it. For 50 years they lived with it and said nothing and left it for someone else to carry without even knowing what they were carrying. I think they hoped it would just dissolve. That time would take care of it. Time doesn't take care of things like that. It just passes them on. I am not what they did, but I am the end of their silence. And that, I think, is what she needed to see.
Angelina Marsh still lives in the same apartment. She visits the site once a year in the autumn when the fields turn gold. She says it does not frighten her anymore, that it feels now like visiting somewhere that has been put to rest rather than somewhere still waiting to be. She sleeps through the night. The dream has not come back.